Welcome to 30 Days of IBS Foods. Today is about sweet corn and how it may affect you if you've got IBS, but we'll start with some of the benefits. Why should you be eating it? Well, it's a really good source of folate, and as we will come on to in terms of how it affects your digestion, it's a low FODMAP vegetable. It does count as one of your 5 a day. I know sometimes people wonder whether sweet corn is a real vegetable or does it count, and it definitely does, and that's because there are lots of benefits. So there are antioxidants in the corn, and when we eat it fresh or frozen or canned, then we're getting some of the levels of high antioxidants. So it's got carotenoids, that's the thing that gives it its bright yellow colour, and that's also present in those orange vegetables such as carrots and sweet potato, but also in spinach. So it's one of the antioxidants that really helps with cell turnover, and it's got that high addition of folate, which is also important for our cell division and cell regeneration. Thinking about the gut, the lining of the gut changes itself every 3 days. Cells are turning over, creating new cells every 3 days. And we need folate for that to happen. We need folate for our energy cycle within the cells that create our energy in the mitochondria. All of these different key nutrients are so important. And sweet corn is a good source of folate. Whilst it does taste very sweet, it's not actually a high sugar vegetable. So around 2.5 grams of sugar per 100 grams, which is relatively low when you compare it to something like sweet potato, which is somewhere like around 10 grams of sugar per 100 grams. So although it does taste very nice and sweet, it's not full of sugar, as you might think. So how does sweet corn affect your digestion? Well, one of the things that's good about it is a mix of soluble and insoluble fibre. Each grain or each kernel has a kind of skin around it that isn't well digested by our bodies. And you will see this in your poo. So it will go through you, doesn't get well broken down, and will come out in the toilet. The good thing about this is we can use it to do a mini kind of transit time test. So if you eat a big portion of sweet corn, say around 100 grams, and you don't chew it up, obviously you chew it to eat it, but you don't spend ages really mushing it down to baby food consistency, then you make a note of the time that you ate it, and then look in the toilet after every bowel movement and see how long it takes for that sweet corn to come through. This is not a completely accurate way to look at your stool transit time test, because that does rely on what else you've eaten that day or those meals in between eating the sweet corn and the poo coming out. Right, there are lots of things that interfere with it. So it's not as strict as doing this in a scientific experiment. However, it can give you an indication of how long food is taking to come through the gut. If it's somewhere in the region of 24 to 36 hours, that is completely normal. Even up to 48 hours would roughly be about normal. If it's longer than 2 days, that's not great. That means you've got quite a slow transit time. And if it's quicker than 12 hours, that's way too quick. So those are the kind of things we want to look within the markers. Sometimes if you think food moves through you too quickly, you might be surprised to see that food is taking a normal amount of time to go through you. And it's only when it hits the large intestine that it's becoming loose and you're getting the diarrhea and it's coming dashing out into the toilet. It's not that the whole of the gut transit time is too fast. It's just that last element. And we do see this a little bit with bile acid diarrhea, where people are getting increasingly erratic bowel movements that aren't really anything to do with just the food, but it's more to do with bile salts hitting the large intestine. The same for people who think they're very constipated and getting very hard stools. Sometimes it can be quite eye-opening to see that food is taking 3 to 4 days to move through your gut. Even though you are having a poo every day, it's still taking a really long time. So this is where sweet corn can be quite interesting, and it shows us a little bit about how the gut is moving. Other foods that you could use the same process with include white sesame seeds. They need to be white so that they show up. The black ones you wouldn't see as much of. But eat 2 tablespoons of sesame seeds in your porridge or in some yogurt or something, and you will notice those in the poo as well, because they should show up. Or you can try beetroot. A portion of beetroot, like around 80 to 100 grams. That's kind of like one whole beetroot. That should colour the poo a little bit red or pink, and then you will notice that in your bowel movements. If you're interested in trying sweet corn, how much can you eat before you might get some symptoms? Well, it is a low FODMAP vegetable, and a portion of any fruit and veg is normally around 75-80 grams. That is half a cup of sweet corn, which is around 2 grams of fibre. But even if you were to double that, you're still within the low FODMAP amounts. So this gives you a bit of confidence. Sometimes the FODMAP limits are very small, and the difference between low, moderate and high FODMAP is just a matter of grams. Whereas here we're going from a low FODMAP normal portion, 80 grams, right up to 160 grams per meal. And that is where it only hits the moderate FODMAP. That's for fresh or frozen. If you're using tinned sweet corn, you can go up to 240 grams per meal, which might be quite a lot to eat in one sitting anyway. The same with baby corn. It's low FODMAP. You can go up to 500 grams. That's half a kilo before it hits any sort of limit. So it's unlikely you're going to be eating that much sweet corn. So the reason I wanted to say all those numbers is just to give you confidence that you can eat quite a lot of it before it becomes one of those foods that is typical IBS trigger. Because of the nutrient benefits in sweet corn, it's got good antioxidant levels, those carotenoids that are good for your eye health as well as your cell turnover, and it's good levels of fibre. So if it's something you enjoy, it's easy to have in frozen or canned varieties. So it's often like a store cupboard or freezer staple, and perfectly good to have as one of your 5 a day to up your vegetable intake. Join me tomorrow for the last in my 30 days of IBS foods.